put that down there. And there we go. All right. So, what did you guys notice about the person in front of you when they were walking? Just some basic characteristics. Keep it clean. Basic characteristics about the person in front of you. What were they doing when they were walking? Swinging their arms. Okay, great. Were the arms moving the same side as the leg, or was it opposite side? Opposite side, right? So when the right leg goes forward, the left arm goes forward, right? What else? A little bit of a height change, right? Okay, very good. What else? Okay, what you got, Karen? Hips and shoulders offset, she says. What do you mean? Okay, so when the right foot is going forward, that hip is also forward, and because the left arm comes forward, that shoulder is also forward. Okay, anything else? There's a ton more stuff.
Foot stays on the ground.
Okay, so the foot kind of hits on the heel. Most people hits on the heel, rolls up on the toe. Right? Okay. What else? I didn't know I was supposed to be watching all that much stuff. How far off the ground did the feet come? Not very far at all, right? Just enough. Just enough. Nobody was walking like this. Right? As far as I could tell. Conservation of energy. Right? It's really, really difficult to walk like this. Right? So, part of the reason, historical footnote, part of the reason that during World War II, German soldiers marched in formation, the reason they did this is because you have to concentrate to do this, which gives you less time to think. Yeah? And you don't want people thinking when they're when you're in that situation. What about hip rotation? We've already talked about front to back. Did you notice anything about anybody's hips? No, I didn't notice any. I wasn't looking at anyone's hip at all. It's okay. This was all observational. This wasn't like. Right, and where was the height change happening? Where about in the step did the height change happen? At the peak? What do you mean at the peak? Right, so like when the foot is directly under you, right, and you're picking up the other foot is swinging forward, that the hip that is supporting your weight is higher or lower than the other hip? Higher. Raise your hand. Lower. Raise your hand. Don't give a shit. Raise your hand. You should probably care. It's actually higher. Again, conservation of energy. Because it's, as you're stepping, if you're doing this with your hip to get your other foot in front, that's way too much work. So this hip holds you up, and then the other hip drops down. Same thing happens with the shoulders at the same time. There's the hips and the shoulders are always counter-rotating. They're going back and forth like this. When the right is forward, when the right hip is forward, the left shoulder is forward, and when the foot is directly underneath us, we're going to talk about the terms for that in just a second. When the right foot is underneath us, supporting our weight, and that hip is up, the right shoulder is down, left side is up. and that's to keep us in balance. Okay? So you may have heard this before, but it bears repeating. A walk is nothing more than a controlled fall. Who's never heard that expression before? Wow, really? Okay. Good. Then you've learned something tonight. I've done my job. So I can cash my paycheck tomorrow. I can go, look, these guys didn't know this last night. Now they do. Yeah, a walk is really a controlled fall. When I stand like this with my feet directly under me, unless somebody pushes on me or there's a giant earthquake, I don't have to worry about falling over. In order to go forward, though, I have to get my center of gravity, my mass, my center of gravity, the bulk of my mass, out over past my feet in order to move forward. Right? In order to push forward, I have to push off and drive my hips forward so that my weight is moving forward. Then I have to catch myself with my other foot, and then that was painful. Mike heard it. He's in the back of the room, so I don't know. So stepping forward again, I do the same thing. I have to push off, catch myself with my foot. This is why when you step on your own shoelace and you can't bring your foot forward, you fall down. Or you're walking along on the sidewalk and you don't notice that there's a crack that's elevated the sidewalk. Your toe catches in it and you lose your balance. It's because your center of gravity is beyond your base of support. So your feet are always your base of support, right? However wide your feet are, your footprints on the ground and the space between them is what's called the base of support. So the wider that is, the more stable you are, right? I can go to this side if my feet are wide apart. I can lean way to this side. I can lean way to this side without having to worry about falling over because my feet are nice and wide apart. If I put them a lot closer together, there's a much less of a distance that I can go before I start to tip over. If I put my feet right together like this, I basically have to stay where I am because the minute I start leaning and I get my weight past where my feet are, I'm going to fall over. So for a walk, that's how that happens. We learn to control that as we grow up, right? And that's why babies are always, they got their arms out because, putting your arms out helps you with balance, right? You can kind of flail a little bit and, to keep your balance. And, they're sort of taking little tiny steps. That's why old people take little tiny steps too, because, they need to make sure that they're staying in control so they don't fall over. So babies will fall over, they're close to the ground and they're covered in chub and, they don't really get hurt. Old people fall over, they got a lot further to go and bones are much more fragile. But, somebody who has knee or ankle issues is also going to take much smaller steps because, if I've got a bad ankle, I'm not going to take a giant step like this because my ankle isn't going to support me till I get my foot out there. So I'm going to take a much smaller step. So these are all things you can observe in anybody walking around. So now that we're into this aspect of the class, it's a good idea. This is something that every animator does, and after you do it for a while, it just becomes habit. You should be observing everything that moves around you. Dogs, cats, fish, other people. When I taught an acting for animation class at San Francisco State once, and one of the things I did was I told the students to go down. This was taught at Westfield off of on Market Street, Market and Powell. And there's a mall downstairs, giant freaking mall. Sent everybody downstairs and said, observe people walking around, and then when you come back upstairs, I want you to recreate 3 walks that you saw. And to a person, every single student went down there going, everybody walks the same. Okay. So then you won't have a hard time recreating those 3 walks. And every single person that came back upstairs went, holy shit, everybody walks differently. Everybody does. Everybody's got, based on height, weight, physical limitations, whatever it happens to be, everybody has a slightly different walk. When I worked at, when I was at Disney, I worked in Orlando, and moved back here when I was done. And then about a year after I left, I went back on vacation, visited some friends. One of my former coworkers was now at Feature Animation, which was at the time inside the Disney MGM Studio theme park. And when you work at Disney, they give you what's called a Silver Pass. And a Silver Pass lets you let in 3 people a day for free. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a really nice perk. So I called up this friend of mine that I used to work with, and I said, hey, we're going to go to studios on this day. Could you get us in? She said, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. So we got there. We picked the time. We got to the park. There's a lot of people there, a lot of people waiting to get in, milling around. I'm me, right? I'm this high, right? I'm sticking up above most everybody else. But between the time I left Disney and the time I came back on vacation, I'd grown a beard. So I'm standing around waiting for Janelle to show up. I'm looking, I'm not seeing her. I never look for people in crowds. If I'm meeting somebody somewhere, they go, well, why don't you look for me? And I'm, no. Look for me. It's like saying, yeah, we're at a fire hydrant convention. Look for me because I'm the fire hydrant. It looks like this. I'm like, I'm the lamppost. You, fire hydrant, look for the lamppost, and then we'll go from there. So I'm sticking up above everybody, but I'm not seeing my friend. So now this is prior to, prevalent use of cell phones. So I said, well, I'm going to go, there's a payphone over here. I'm going to go call her and see what's going on. So I walk over to the payphone. I no sooner put the coin in than I look over, and here comes Janelle. I'm like, oh, okay, and I hung up, and they kept my quarter, but, it's Disney. They take every dime they possibly can. And I said, wow, I guess she said, no, I've been out here for 5 minutes. And I was, you didn't see me? And she goes, well, I saw this really tall guy, but he had a beard, and I didn't think it was you. And I'm like, there's nobody else. And she said, yeah, I wasn't sure, and then I saw you turn and walk towards the phone. I went, oh, that's how Paul walks. That's him. Because she's an animator, and she knew how I walked. Even though I hadn't seen her for a year, she went, yep, that's him right there. Another quick story. When I was in college, I worked in record stores and frame shops and those sorts of records are these large vinyl discs that contain music, and you put an arm on them, and they're coming back, and I'm like, why? Oh my God, why? Vinyl's the thing. No, it's not. I grew up with vinyl. Vinyl sucks ass. I couldn't wait to go digital. But there was this one gal that I kept running into. We kept ending up at the same places. We'd end up working 2 or 3 different places together. It wasn't ever planned. It was this thing. And, we got to know each other really well. And, I went to her wedding, and I remember if she came to mine or not. Not that it matters, but because we're both divorced. But when I came back from Florida, I had the TV on one day, and it was a local, they were advertising, it was a promo for advertise your local business on Comcast. And I wasn't really paying attention because it was a commercial, and who pays attention? I was doing something, and they're doing talking head interviews. It's like, I advertised with Comcast, and my sales went through the roof, and I advertised with Comcast, and my dog was cured of cancer, and, whatever the statements were. but there was this gal on there, and she was talking, and at the very end of her interview, she moved her head in a certain way, and I went, "Holy shit, that's Yvonne!" And I hadn't been paying attention, so now I'm like flipping through the channels looking for that commercial again, and sure enough, it was her, and it was because I knew her well enough to know that she does that thing with her head. So it's something that if this is something you want to pursue, even seriously, professionally, whatever it happens to be, it's to your benefit to observe movement around you. And you can make notes if you like. You can shoot video, although, if it's of people, make sure they know because it ends up looking creepy. But, animals are free game, it's fair game. Free game. Dinner. It's fair game. The amount of stuff you have available to you right now is unbelievably mind-boggling. We used to have to go out and shoot our own reference. If you wanted reference of I have footage of my son jumping up when he was really little, a little kid jumping up and down inside his crib. Not because I thought it was cute or I wanted to capture that moment for posterity. I'm like, that's awesome. I got to get some footage of that so that I can use it as reference. And my wife at the time comes in and goes, "Oh, you're taking it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's reference." And she's like, "I fucking hate you." And she didn't actually say that. She just kind of went and left the room. That was not the reason we broke up, by the way. Yeah. So observe, pay attention, which is why we walked around, is so you could have an opportunity to see what a walk looks like and the kind of components that go into it. So what we're going to do, let me show you the assignment real quick, and then I'll give you an approach for breaking it down. Yes? Okay. Can you see you now? Okay. So you don't have the web page now? Okay. Well, I'm screen recording, so you should be able to throw it up on screen, or you'll be able to catch up on it when I upload it. Okay. So here's the assignment. So it's a multi-week assignment. It'll probably take us about 3 weeks to get there. So you're going to create an in-place walk cycle. A walk cycle is just like a bouncing ball cycle where the end matches up to the beginning so that it can play in a loop. Cycles are huge in the game industry. Walk cycles, run cycles, attack cycles, die cycles, jumping, yeah, all kinds of things, climbing. You need to know how to do a cycle, especially a cycle in place, if you're going to, if you aspire to work in the game industry, because that's a lot of the animation that you'll be doing. So we're going to do an in-place cycle. It says use either the beefy or bony rig. If you want to use, we've got another one called Hogan that you can use as well, if you like. Sorry? We'll get to, I'll show them to you, don't worry. So your walk is going to be of the following length. So, and you'll see what these look like here in a little bit. A walk, a double bounce walk, or a strut is going to be 24 frames, so that's going to be 1 second long. A shuffle or a sneak is 48 frames. Now, why the difference in the length? Because one of those walks is fairly upbeat, jaunty. It's got some energy behind it. So it'll only take a second to go from your right foot forward to your left foot forward to your right foot being back forward. About a second. A shuffle or a sneak. The shuffle is, sort of low energy. Kind of tired, depressed, whatever. So that'll take a little longer. A sneak is something that you're doing really stealthily, so you're going to want to move slowly in order to not draw attention to yourself. So that would be a 2-second cycle, or 48 frames. Okay, camera angle's a mid-level 3/4 view. favoring the side view, and no camera movement. So this week you're gonna do thumbnails, do a first pass of the walk. You're gonna keep all the keys on the same frame. So you're gonna hit some basic milestone keys, and then everything's gonna stay on the same frame. We're gonna talk about offsets next week. So you want to keep in mind the mass of your character, how it affects how your character moves. Beefy and bony are two different body types. So Beefy, as you might imagine, is a little bit bigger, and so he's going to move differently than Bony, who's a little more slender, and then all of that. Sorry? Hogan's almost skeletal, really. So here are your options for the characters. Let me just open up. Have you got the screen back yet, Karen? Okay. So, open and desktop. So here's Beefy. He looks like this. There he is. I'm not sure why his limbs are different colored, but they may have made some changes to this. This is actually a way that you can use to help distinguish which side of the character an object is on. So he's kind of, he's beefy. He's muscular. He's a little on the stocky side, but obviously weighing in a little bit heavier than some characters. Here's Bony. This is how most rigs look. He's a slender kind of character. You can see here one arm, got opposite side arms, black and black. And that'll help you sort them out. And then we've got, on the desktop, here's Hogan. Don't save. Hogan looks like this. Yeah, his surfaces are weird. I don't know what's going on with that. But he's got he's more of a skeleton kind of character, skeleton robot kind of guy. So, in any walk cycle, there are two main poses that you want to concern yourself with. They are the contact position and the passing position. Okay? Contact position happens when the foot that's coming forward the heel just hits the ground. So this would be contact with my right foot forward. My heel's just hitting the ground, my toe's rolling up, my toe on my support leg is rolling up. That's contact. The passing position is when my body weight is over the support leg and the leg that's swinging forward is passing by the support leg. That's why we call it the passing position, because this is actually passing forward. Now, those are close to the low point and the high point of the walk in terms of Mike mentioned the up and down aspect. You naturally get that up and down with contact and passing, because at contact, my feet are about as far apart as they can be, which means that overall I'm going to be a little lower, right? Because my feet are separated. When I'm directly over my foot, I'm going to be near the highest point of the walk. So the actual low point of the walk, and I'll show you this here in just a sec. The actual low point of the walk is the frame after contact, because you're going to roll, the foot's going to roll forward down, and then because your mass is coming down, your leg has to catch your weight. So you actually drop down just a little bit more on the next frame. And your highest point in the walk is just after passing position, because as your foot's coming forward, you're pushing forward with the foot that's supporting your weight, so that's going to drive you upward a little bit. So these are up on the website, and feel free to use them. Here's some walks from Preston Blair. each of these is half of a walk cycle. Where the gray happens, where it's grayed out a little bit, is where the opposite side kicks in. So on this walk, this first drawing here is the contact position. And you can see that the very next drawing, the leg has absorbed a little bit of the weight and it's actually dropped down a little bit. This is the passing position right here. And there's actually a drawing missing, but you can see that the head is at this height, and then they've dotted lined it, so it would be up just a little bit more. This actually should be a little higher. So this is the first half of the walk, and you can see over here, the legs are reversed. So the leg that was in front is now in the back, just like this one. And this foot, which was in front, or this foot that was in back, is now in the front. So they've mirrored each other. The reason I've graded these out is because this was, for a long time, this was one of the few references for animation students to use. And this is as much of the cycles as Preston drew. And what people would do is they'd do these drawings and then shoot them, and then the cycle wouldn't work because there's drawings missing on the end. So I grade these bits out so that you can tell where the cycle flips and mirrors itself. So the double bounce walk, this is a Mickey Mouse walk where he's going up and down twice for every step he takes. It's a little tricky, but you're welcome to give it a shot. Strut is more of an attitude walk. This would be like, Mr. Incredible kind of thing where he's, walking along. Or in that really shitty Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man goes goth. He's walking down the street and he's doing this thing. That'd be a strut. Yeah, I hated that film. And then kill him off. But the shuffle, this is going to be a little bit longer because it's slower, but we still have a contact position and we still have a passing position. And then same thing here with the sneak. We've still got contact and we've still got a pass. The pass kind of falls in between these two drawings, but these are pretty good keys. Look at the difference in the height of the sneak. So he's leaning way back, and then he comes whipping forward, pushing his weight over, and then kind of the idea behind the sneak is you want to stay as small as possible for as long as possible as you're moving forward. Sorry? Yeah, maybe. Maya.
For the shuffle, when the foot is passing,
Uh-huh.
more like dragging against the ground, or is it just like twisting my knees around?
You would definitely, so a good reference to look at for an animated shuffle is Goofy. If he's just walking along, the world owes me a living, whatever he sings. His regular walks are pretty good shuffles. And yeah, the foot is really just barely off the ground. You're not lifting it very high at all. It's all about conservation of motion at that point. Okay? So as far as the high point and the low point, that's in this walks 2. And again, these are on the website. You can download these and take a look at them. But you can see here's the walk broken down. Here's contact position, and then character sinks just a little bit after contact, and then here's the pass, and then the very next frame after the pass, the character's pushing up a little because he's up on his toe. Same thing going on down here. So this is left foot forward. This is right foot forward. Okay. All right. So let's block a little bit now. For this one, last week we did enabled step preview to get our lamp blocked out. We're not going to do that this time. We're going to leave this in splines because with the walk it's a lot easier to just spline it. So I'm going to do a walk. It's a 24 frame walk. So how many frames do I need in my sequence? It's a cycle. If I need a 24 frame cycle, how many frames do I need to work with in Maya? 24? 25. 25. Because the first frame and the last frame have to match up, right? So I'm going to pose my character on frame 1. I'm going to copy that pose on frame 25 so that it cycles back to that, and then I'll put the other position in the middle. So here we go. I'm going to take my guy. I'm just going to work with Hogan here a little bit. The other rigs are a blast, but I'm more familiar with him, so it's just a little quicker. So I'm going to take his foot, and, oh, there he goes. I'm going to bring it forward. You kind of want to work in a side view so you can see what's going on. Maybe not a full side view like this, because it's hard to see the controls, but you can approximate a side view with the perspective view. Just kind of roll around the side a little bit. So we get his foot forward, and then I'm going to, on frame 1, you always want to hit S. This is a good way. This is a good time to use auto key. You can turn on auto key right here. When it's got the box surrounding it, it means it's on. And this way, when you pose your character, you're automatically setting keys for the values that change. But in order for that to work, you have to have an S key set on frame 1, because it'll only record values that already have a value keyed. Does that make sense? There has to be a keyed value in order for auto key to change it. So I'm going to grab this control. I'm going to hit S to set that key. I'm going to grab his back foot here. I'm going to slide it back. I'm going to hit S to set that key. I'm going to take his main control. I'm going to bring it down so that the knees are a little bent. Set a key for that. I'm going to actually take his front foot and slide it back a little. It's a little too far forward. You can use, this is a good time to use the grid to kind of space this out, because you want to kind of keep things even. So I've got a couple of, maybe a space and a square and a half that, for his foot here. So because we're going to the heel, we're going to push out just a little bit further. So that's pretty good. Then I'm going to bring this back up. When you're doing this, you're going to have to do a lot of adjusting, because you move the feet and then you move the hips down, and then you have to kind of tweak it a little bit. Now, so there's the feet and the hips. I'm going to just focus on those right now. We'll get to the arms in a little bit. Now, what's the characteristic of contact position? What position are my feet in? Heel's just striking, right? So this is not, this flat foot here that we're looking at really isn't going to cut it for a contact position. So we want to adjust that. Fortunately, there's some controls here. The temptation is to just turn on rotate and rotate the foot like this, but that complicates things if you rotate the control up. You could certainly do that, but it makes it a little more complicated to animate. So instead of that, we'll grab, if we click on the foot control, we've got this foot roll control, and if we click on the name of it and we middle mouse click and drag, see how we can go up and down with that? We can roll up on the toe, or we can roll back on the heel. So we can bring the heel up, and then we'll right click and do key selected, and then we'll come over here to the back foot and do the same thing. Grab the foot roll, roll it up on the toe, and key selected. And now with the feet in their positions, we can again adjust them a little bit so that they look a little more. Now the nice thing about this is, since we've already keyed these positional controls, Maya will automatically key the new value for me because I've got auto key on. Okay? So there's our contact position. And what I want to do is I want to come out to frame 25, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to hit S for that foot control, and S for this foot control, and grab the middle control and hit S. So now I've got frame 1, frame 25. When I play blast this, I'll shrink the range slider down to only 24 frames. But because frame 25 is out there, things will in between to that key. Okay. So now we need that the next position. Right, we need the other contact position. So I'm going to go, rather than try and go to my passing position right away, I'm going to go ahead and set up my second contact position. This one's a little easier because we already have the feet kind of where we need to put them. So all I have to do is, I'm going to just make a mental note here. I'm about 2.5 grid spaces back for the toe of the trailing foot. And I'm going to make a mental note of that because I'm going to take this trailing foot and I'm going to slide it up here so that the control is in roughly the same position. You don't want to match these exactly because then it starts to look mechanical. But because it's already there, we can go ahead and just slide that up. And then we'll take the foot roll control and we'll roll the toe up. And now he looks like he's driving a car. And again, Maya's already keyed that for me. Look at that. Slide that up just like that. And then I'll take this foot control and I'll slide it back so the tip of that is about 2.5 back, because that's where the other one was. Take my foot roll, roll it down. There we are. And we'll key that. And there's our feet. It's our first contact, second contact, and the one that we're going to resolve to at the end. The other thing we need to remember to do, because we didn't change this at all, is this main pelvis control. We have to key that by hand. So I'm just going to Shift W that, because if we make a change to it like we're about to, it'll stay in that changed position since there's no key at 13. So when you're setting up the mirrored images here, anything that you've used to pose that character, but you haven't moved in the reflected image, make sure you key it. So now we need to drop in our passing position. Go to about frame 7 because we want 6 frames to get to the pass and then 6 more frames to get to the contact. So go to about frame 7. We'll slide this around. And you can see here, we kind of get the foot in the right position right about frame 7, right? It's just about in contact. So we'll just take it, we'll slide it a little bit forward. Stop it. Oh, come on. Yeah. Not cooperating. Undo. Come on. There we go. All right. I will make you do what I want. There we go. So that foot's going back, right? So that's our weight-bearing foot right there. And just to make sure everything's cool, I'm going to take foot roll and I'm going to zero it out and key that. I'm going to whip around to this side. I'm going to take, once again, take this control. I'm going to lift it up a little bit because this is our pass, right? Take our foot roll, and we're gonna put this. Let's see. We're gonna zero that and key that and select it, and then I think, yep, that's the one we want. This toe pivot up down will give us the rotation on the foot that we want because we want to bring that forward. So we'll leave that. We'll just kind of roll that up a little bit. And then we'll bring it down, and we'll bring it back. Remember what we noted on our walk around is that the foot is just clearing the ground, right? We want the toe just a little bit above the ground, just enough to clear. Right? There we go. There's that. And because this is our passing position, we want to get the hips up. So we're going to take this and we're going to bring it up. We don't want to lock the knee. You don't want to take that knee 100% straight. We're going to leave it a little bit bent. So there he goes. There's the passing position. Okay? And there's our second contact. And our translate Z is off. So why is our translate Z not playing nice with us? Any idea? Why aren't we on the ground right here? Because when we moved this on frame 13, we didn't change the translate Z any. So the auto key didn't catch the value change. There was no value change, so it didn't catch it. So we just have to, whoops, sorry, wrong one, my bad. Yeah, we want the Y. Stop it. There we go. We want the Y. So the Y is going to go to 0. And, okay. There we go. There. Oh, it's probably toe pivot. That's giving us, there we go. So toe pivot was giving us a little trouble. As it was causing our, so there's our pass. And there's a contact. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're gonna do our other pass right here. You can see the leg is in just about the right position, so we're good to go. We're gonna reset this to 0, and we're gonna get foot roll to 0. There we go. So we're nice and down on the ground. And then we'll come around this side. We'll get this control. We'll raise it up. We'll take foot roll down to 0. We'll get toe pivot. Bring that up. Get our, whoops, our translate, bring it down. We've got the same situation here. We need to key these as well. So there's that. And then on frame 20, once again, we want to get the hips up. So what we could do, if we wanted to, rather than just repositioning this, is we can grab this. We can just grab this value and copy that. Grab that value. Command C. Go to frame. It's frame 20, right? Yeah. Frame 20. Select that again. And paste it. And there he goes. So that's a good start, right? Right. Well, we'll get into that next week, because that's more of a refining thing. This week, what I want you to do is just get the feet and the arms working, and then we'll get into refining. So there he goes, taking a walk. Now, something else that you might want to add this week, and it's important that you add it correctly because you will work way too hard otherwise. What do we talk about with the hips? There's rotation, right? There's forward and back rotation and up and down rotation. So the natural instinct would be to grab the hip control here and get grab the rotate tool and rotate the hips, right? This hip will be forward because this leg is forward. But if we grab the hip and we rotate it, look what happens to the rest of the body. See, the rest of the body turns. And then what you have to do is you have to do what's called counter-animating. So you've got to then take the top of the body and spin it around the other way so that everything looks the way that it should. I don't know why my keyboard commands aren't working right now, but they're not. So instead of that, you're going to use these controls right here. We've got pelvis left and right, and we're on frame 1, and that's going to give us the up and down tilt, right?
Not all the muscles, right?
What's that?
All the rigs have them?
Yeah, they all have it. Now, they'll look a little different. Each of the rigs is slightly different, but all of them have this control. And then pelvis twist goes forward and back. Gyrates, sure. And then we've got pelvis forward and back, which is so. So for the contact position, we want to bring those hips forward, right? We want to bring his left hip forward because that's what's going to happen with that walk. So we'll just twist that a little bit. And I'm just going to note that's 1.1. And then I'm going to come over here to this frame, and I'm going to twist it back the other way till it's about 1.1. And then again, frame 25, I want to actually input that amount because I need it to match. So frame 1 and frame 25 match in the pelvis rotation. So for the contact position, the pelvis and the hips are perpendicular to or parallel to the ground, rather, and they're rotating forward and back, right? For the passing position, the hips are going to have a little bit of a tilt, right? Because the weight-bearing nature of the hips. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to get my pelvis left and right, and I'm going to push this pose a little bit. Rotate the hips so that it's up. Now that took my leg and straightened it out. So I'm just going to go, my keyboard shortcuts are not working. Maya's getting cranky. So I just took it and made a little bit of an adjustment, shoved it down a little bit. There's a rotation. I'll come to frame 20, which is actually a little later. It should be a little sooner than that, but that's okay. And rotate up this way, so that this weight-bearing hip is now up, and get my move control, and move him down so his foot is touching the ground again, his knee's slightly bent. And if we take a look at him walking, so we've already got some basic stuff going on here, right? We got the hips rotating, we've got a little bit of foot action. Although Alex's point, we'll talk about that next week. Is what's happening right now is he's kind of rolling through the foot pose. His foot never makes flat contact with the ground until he gets to the passing position, and you generally don't want to do that, but we'll get to that next week. Okay? All right. So now the arms. Now the arms can go either FK or IK. For the walk, you're going to want to use FK arms. Using FK arms because they give us a nice natural arc. The hands don't have to be attached to anything, so we don't need them to stay where we put them. We just want them to swing back and forth with the character. So you can adjust that here. Hogan, I know, comes in with FK already functioning. If you, in this case, we click on this, and if we wanted to switch to IK, we just change this to 10, and then the little icon goes to IK, and everything changes. But we don't want that. We want FK. So these little boxes here are how we manipulate the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist. One thing you might want to do real quick that will make your character look better right off the top is go to this hand control, this little plus that's here at the end. And this is true of Beefy, Boney, Hogan, whoever you decide to use. See how the hands are super flat? Call these paddle hands. Your hands do not ever do this naturally. If you hold your hands relaxed, your fingers have a natural curve to them. So what you can do is just highlight all of this. And then just come in here and give it a little bit of, actually don't do the thumb. Just do the fingers. Don't do the thumb. You have to do the thumb separately. But take the, come on, pointer and pinky, and we're just going to take them and bend them slightly, just like that. And already that looks way better. And then I'm just going to take thumb base and move it out, and I'm going to cup the base a little bit, bring it down like that. So this hand already looks way better than that hand, and it won't be as distracting when your character walks either. I'll leave the other one as it is, and you can see what I mean. So here we go. For the arms, we're just going to take this control, and we're going to rotate his arm down, and his left foot is forward, so this left arm goes back, right? Keeping us in balance. Swing that back on frame 1. Hit S to key that. I'm going to give a little bit of rotation to the elbow, just so that he's not walking stiff arm. Same thing as with the hands. Little bit of rotation to the wrist. Now, because we're working with overlap and follow through, the wrist should be forward or back at this point. If his arm is swinging forward, right? This foot is going back, so this arm is swinging forward. So wrist should be back, right? Because it's, whoops, got the wrong control there. There we go. Because the wrist is going to trail the action, right? Sure, Paul, whatever you say. Thank you so much. I'm going to actually bring this arm back just a little bit more. There we go. And then once again, frame 25. Key that, key that, key that. There we go. This arm, same thing. Not the elbow, not the shoulder. Bring the arm down. Bring it forward. Set a key. Bring this up. Set a key. This is going to start moving backwards, so this wrist will be, you get the right control there, Paul. Oops. One axis, not multiple. There you go. So we'll bring that back, right? This wrist is going to trail behind. So there's that. And that was on frame 25. So I'm going to key that. I'm going to make sure this is keyed. And I'm going to make sure the shoulder's keyed. And then I can just go back to frame 1 and key them again. Because they haven't moved. They're in the same position. to do. The arms are actually a little bit easier because you don't have as many requirements about the. There you go. Walk like an Egyptian. How about that? So with the arms, you don't have as many requirements for passing position and such. You can play with them and certainly get some interesting looks, but as far as the getting them in the right position for the pass and whatnot, all you have to do is make sure that you're in opposition. So we'll just take this guy for our purposes now. We'll take this and swing it back, and that's going to key. And then we'll take this wrist control. And because we put the wrist back, we'll wrist that back a little bit. Might even want to bend the elbow just a little bit, just to keep it interesting. Because you don't want that joint to lock. You don't want it to just be stiff. It will jump out at you in a heartbeat. So we'll take that, and we'll roll that up. And then this wrist is going to come backwards. I can get a hold of the control. There we are. That wrist comes back. There we go. How about that? Huh? How about that? Look at that. Yep, you still got it, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, now what we need to do is we need to get the shoulders working right? So, again, we don't want to rotate the body because that'll make us have to counter-animate the head. So on each of the shoulder controls, at least with Hogan, and again, Beefy and Boney also have these. You'll have to sort of poke around and see where they are. We got clavicle up and down, clavicle forward and back. So here we're even, right? But we want to bring this one forward and this one back. So we're going to go forward, back on frame 1. And we're going to slide it back like that. And we'll go to frame 25. What was our value? Our value is 4.8. And we'll go minus 4.8 there. And that'll key. And then on this one, we want to bring it forward. So we got that value. We'll bring this forward to about the same. And we've got that arm swinging forward and back as well as the shoulder. Same thing over here. This arm's forward at this point, so we're going to bring this one forward. Again, about 4. And then here we'll push it backward about the same amount, more or less. And these are all I'm just blocking this in at this point. I might find that the values need to be greater or less as I start to refine this, and you'll just tweak it as you go. 4.1. There we go. So that's got our forward and back with our shoulders working now. Okay? And now we have to do is our up and down. So frame 7. Our left hip is up, so our right shoulder is going to be down, right? Make sure we've got this set on frame 1, key selected. It's got red in it, which means that it's keyed, but never hurts to be sure. So on frame 7, we're going to go, this one's up, so we're going to bring this down. So we'll bring that value down. And because this one's down, this shoulder's going to go up a little bit. And again, you can see his arm is swinging way out to the side now, so you might have to tweak that as you work on it. So even, shoulder up, shoulder down. We'll go back to even here. We'll just grab both of these values, set them to 0. And then we'll go to frame, I think it was frame 20 I was working with. This shoulder, or this hip is up, so this shoulder is going to be down. And this hip is down, so this shoulder will be up. Up we go. And then back to 0, right there. Actually, I kind of blew it right there. I think I zeroed out something I shouldn't have zeroed out. And, yeah, this should, let's see, 0, 4.8, yeah, you can zero that, and this one should be zeroed as well. Yeah, see, that's the one I blew. That's the one that needs fixing right there. Let's go back a little bit more. Pretty good. And then frame 20. So we've got nice offset. Forward and back is 0.06, so that's close enough. And there we are. So now we're going to trim off that last little frame there. So now we've only got the 24 frame cycle. And hit play. Oh, actually, the other thing I want to do, and you should do this too, before you play blast, go into your display layers here and turn off the control layers. So just click on the V to make them invisible. And they're all still there, they're just not visible currently. And then here we go. So still needs a lot of work, as you can see his arms are swinging like wild and whatnot. But it's a good start. Yeah, next week we'll make them a little less robotic. Little less robotic. Everybody following along? You know where I'm going with this? Except Karen, who can't see anything right now. Any questions? No? We're good? Sweet. Thank you. Save scene as. And we'll put this on the desktop and hope nobody deletes it. Hogan. Walk, block. .ma. There we go. Okay, so we looked at the assignment. You're going to in-place walk this guy. Take a look at the walks handout. Watch some people walk around. You know, you might find some inspiration there. The camera view should be similar to what I've got here. You know, sort of a mid three-quarter view, favoring the side, because it's easier to see from the side. If you go from the front, it's a lot harder to tell what's going on. So mid three-quarter view from the side. And so thumbnail it out, play around with it, and then just start blocking in the main movements. There's in the textbook there's a section on walks. So check that out as well. It's got like a demon guy with wings. It used to be just a straight walk cycle, but now it's like a demon with, it's got additional motions on top of it and everything. But there's good information in there about animating a walk. Okay? Yeah. Now you're mocking me, right? Okay. Unless anybody has any questions, that's what I got for you. And there's only 5 minutes left anyway. So please turn off your computers before you leave, because otherwise I got to do it, and that makes me cranky. Okay? All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking forward to seeing your blocked walks next week. And then we'll get into, we'll take a look at your final lamps as well. We'll look at the final lamps, maybe a little feedback. We'll see how it goes. And then blocked out walks, we'll take a look at those, a little feedback. and then we'll get into breaking it down further. Okay? All right. We will see you then. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to...
Wait, do we turn in hours?
Great question. If you are not going to do any additional work for this class tomorrow, then please turn in your hours. Otherwise, I don't want to cut you off if you're going to do stuff tomorrow. So if you're going to work tomorrow, then just give me your lab hour sheet next week. But if you didn't give it to me tonight, I definitely need it next week. Okay? Remember, it's a requirement of the class. You have to turn them in. And I'll know because, we log them, and if you don't turn them in, then you're not logged, and it's a thing. If you're working in here and you're logging in on the SARS computer, you don't have to worry about this at all. You're covered. Let me really quickly stop the recording.